Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciples there, whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciples, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. After this, aware that everything was now finished, in order that the scripture might be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I thirst." There was a vessel filled with common wine. So they put a sponge soaked in wine on a sprig of hyssop and put it up to his mouth. When Jesus had taken the wine, he said, "It is finished." Bowing his head, he handed over the Spirit. Now, since it was preparation day, in order that the bodies might not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for the Sabbath day of that week was a solemn one, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs be broken and they be taken down. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and then of the other one, was crucified with Jesus. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one soldier thrust his lance into his side, and immediately blood and water flowed out. The Gospel of the Lord. Today, I only would like to take this moment to explain who is who. Because we have so many people that we read about in the first reading, the first chapter of the Acts, and in this chapter 19 of John. All people that we know, but not really. So first of all, we started the Gospel talking about the three Marys, and also this could lead us to a misunderstanding, because it says, standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister. And so you think, oh, Mary had a sister, because this is what it says. But you always have to apply the rule that sisters and brothers are also not totally cousins, also sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Well, we call sister anyway, no, also us. So, his mother's sister. Then, the Gospel says, Mary the wife of Clopas. So is this the mother sister we are talking about, or is she another one? Because you say the word his mother and his mother's sisters, comma, Mary, the wife of Clopas. Okay, so somebody could think that this is another person. Oh no, this is exactly the mother sister that we are talking about. So there was, next to Mary, there was another Mary. And this Mary was not, of course, the sister of the Virgin Mary. She was the wife of the brother of Joseph. But let's go ahead. I will explain that better. So, The brother of Joseph is this man that we call here Clopas. Sometimes it's called Clopas, sometimes it's called Alphaeus. We will see why. And then there was another one, Mary of Magdala. Also, Mary of Magdala is a mysterious Mary. Because sometimes we said that we can believe, just like, also several popes said that Mary of Magdala is more than probably Mary of Lazarus. So we have the three Marys under the cross. The Virgin Mary, Mary of Magdala, and this other Mary that is a sister of Mary, in the sense that she is the sister-in-law, and because she is the wife of Clopas. Okay, so this is what we learned up to now. In the first reading, now a step back, Acts chapter 1, we talked about James of Alphaeus and Judas, son of James. These are two of the disciples of Jesus. And then the conclusion of the reading says that there, in that place, there was Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. So the brothers of Jesus, of course. So, are we talking about more people? So besides the disciples, there were the two brothers of Jesus? No, because we know that some of the disciples, precisely James and Judas, were called, above all Judas, he was called the brother of Jesus. So they were relatives of Jesus in the group of the disciples. But still, when you say brother, you're not saying brother just like we are saying. In this case, yes, those were cousins. But cousins, brothers or different cousins? Because here it says that James was the son of Alphaeus. And Judas was the son of James. Okay. Let's start with Judas. Why Judas, son of James? If you go to see the translation in Greek, it doesn't say son. So why did they put son here if he's not the son of Jacob or James? It's only of. Because to be son of somebody in Greek, you say something of David. Okay? This is one of the ways that I used to say that somebody is the son of somebody else. But this is used not only for sons and fathers, for this kind of relation. This is also used for brothers. So if I have my brother here, Peter, son of Peter, to distinguish in case there is somebody that has my same name. And here we have Judas. And, John wants to be sure that we understand. We are not talking about the other Judas. So that's why he's specifying. And he's referring him to the most important person there, which is James, his brother. So actually we shouldn't say, according to this interpretation, okay, Judas, we shouldn't say the son of James. We should interpret that of, that we find in Greek, of course, is a genitive, okay? Judas, brother of James. So this explains that Judas and James were the two brothers that the gospel is talking about. Otherwise, there will have a be these two brothers, because it says that Mary was there with his brothers, with the brothers of Jesus. So who are these brothers? The only possibility is that they are Judas and James, because the rest of the disciples, we all know them. And none of them is related to Jesus. First of all, because they were not in Nazareth. Okay, but why we talk about Alphaeus? There is a very interesting interpretation that says that Alphaeus and Clopas, we talk about Mary, the wife of Clopas. There is an interpretation that says that Alphaeus and Clopas are the same person. Why? If we go and look at these names, Clopas. Clopas is a short form for Cleopatrus. In fact, you remember Cleopatra, of course, right? The queen of Egypt. You remember Cleopatra. Well, what does it mean? Kleos, Kleos in Greek means glory, the human glory. Kleos, Patros, the glory of my father. This is what this name means. So Cleopatra was the glory of her father. And Clopas is the short form. So what do we learn from this? It's a Greek name. Clopas is a Greek name. Unlike Alphaeus. Alphaeus is not a Greek name. Alphaeus is coming from Hebrew. It comes from Alphaeus, which means come back. But it's a Jew name. So there is somebody that says, you know what? People at that time used to do something that we also do. Let's take Father Antonio. Father Antonio coming from Italy comes to the States and people start referring him to Tony. Hey, Father Tony. Why would they say Tony? Because Tony is a name that sounds here. Okay? Also in the Gospel, it works this way. In the New Testament. Do you know Saul? Saul. No? Saul is a Hebrew name. It's a Jew name. And Saul decides to call himself Paul. Paulus. Paulos, but then in Latin, Paulus. But first of all, it's a Greek name. So what St. Paul did, from Saul, he changed the name in Paul, so from a Jew name to a Greek name, for the same reason. So Saul becomes Paul, just like Alphaeus becomes Cleopas. So the closest Greek form, because everybody spoke Greek at that time. So it sounded better. Above all, because these Gospels were written in Greek to people who spoke Greek. So if I want you to understand me, I cannot say too many names that you say, what are you talking about? What is this? Is a name? Is the name of a feast? Is the name of a person? What is it? So they changed, in order to be understood. And some people changed the name also. Above all, if they had relations, with people speaking Greek. Okay, so in this interpretation, we finally can say that the Mary that was there on the cross, she was the sister-in-law of Mary and Joseph, because she married a man called Clopas, or Alphaeus, who was the father, with Mary, of Judas and James, the two cousins of Jesus, called the brothers of Jesus. The two brothers that we refer to in the first reading of today by saying that Mary was there with his brothers. One last thing that we read, I'm just trying to take things that need explanation, because this is not referred to relatives or people, but it's still also very interesting to know. When we are in the Gospel now, and in the Gospel we read about Jesus saying, "I thirst." And then the Gospel says, there was a vessel filled with common wine, which supposedly was vinegar, common wine. So they put a sponge soaked in wine on a sprig of hyssop. A sprig of hyssop. And put it up to his mouth. When Jesus had taken the wine, he said, "It is finished." Let me read before Jesus says, "I thirst." In order that the scripture might be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I thirst." And then they took the sponge, the wine, the sprig of hyssop, they give him. So he said, at that point, he said, "It is finished." So it's as if he said, "I thirst," because he wanted that wine and that sprig of hyssop. Why the sprig of hyssop is so important? There is a reason. You remember this hyssop? Because we pronounce this word. You know what it is, hyssop? Hyssop is a herb. It's a medical herb. It smells good. And it's very, very close to what we today we call oregano. And you know, it may become stronger, and there is like, you know, a sprig that you can use, okay? And this hyssop, okay, so we have King David, which is believed to be, you know, one of the writers of the Psalms, well, together with Solomon. But David prayed the Psalm 51 with these words, "Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow." It's a psalm that some morning we use to pray. Okay? So why David again is saying that he wants to be cleansed with hyssop? Why don't you use something else? Precisely hyssop, or as if it had property to clean bodies. Yeah, maybe it has, but why hyssop? Because, you know, for what it was used hyssop. If we go in Exodus 12, verse 22, this is what it says. We are in Egypt now. We are in Egypt. So, you know, Passover is always referred to what happened in Egypt. So we are back there. And Exodus 12, verse 22 says, "Take a bunch of hyssop leaves, and dip it into the blood, which is in the basin, and smear it on the two sides or on top of the door frame." So hyssop was used to take that blood and to smear the door in Egypt. During Passover, the angel who came to kill all the impure people, above all the firstborns, he passed over if he saw that blood, and the blood was put there with a bunch of hyssop. So to connect the mystery that was going to happen of his death, like the lamb who sacrificed his blood for the purification of the people, you know, Jesus, to accomplish the scripture, said, "I thirst." So they took the hyssop and they put the hyssop next to Jesus for him to drink that wine. So he connected the hyssop of Egypt that was used to smear the doors to the hyssop that was used to give him vinegar when he was thirsty.